If there is a message for us today, I believe it is to learn to live from our heart in love. These short lessons, hopefully, will help to inspire you to live with purpose, love passionately, and inspire others. We are the change agent our world needs. I'm Helen Toews. Step into the river today with me to explore the mysteries of God. They are not hidden from us, but for us to discover. Okay. Well, everyone's welcome. Claudia, thank you for coming on. Susan Sanowski, Caroline, is that Caroline down under? Nice to see you all. Well, is that Sandy on the phone? Okay, I can't see. Anyway, it's been a very, very interesting time. Bev has, if you can see on our Hollywood Squares, was sharing she was in a terrific car accident, 12-car pileup in a whiteout in Winnipeg, and Beverly, we're so grateful for God looking after you and actually that whole mess. Really, it could have been a lot worse, but what an experience. So thanks for sharing with us. It's been it's been quite a season. It just seems like I at the beginning of the year, I called it the perfect storm because there was one thing after another that happened, and yeah. So I'm going to push on. Where are we here? I'm going to pin me. And then, all right. Where are we? Okay. Last week, we took a look at a subject called quantum being, and Hadassah, you were really funny when you said we came off back into the Hollywood Squares and said, I feel like I'm doing a PhD. And I thought about that a lot. I took that to heart. There's nothing wrong with saying that. I thought that was really sweet, because we are pressing in more to flesh out things that we may have learned casually. And another person contacted me and said, this is probably one of the lessons that they really enjoyed, but there's so much now to engage in. And you know what? That's the heart of it. That's the heart of the PhD that we're doing. Is not about learning more stuff. It's about activating and doing the stuff and being part of life at a level, not just at that understanding the quantum being level and all those things that we're learning, but to be able to take what we're learning and implement it in our life and changing us. And so I'm really moved this week we're just going to sort of slow down a bit and talk about the consciousness of now. That's what I'm calling it. Wayne Dyer, in one of his many lectures, I absolutely love Wayne. I just like his soothing voice and the way he puts things, very encouraging. And some of the analogies he uses, I think, are terrific. And this is one. In one of his lectures, he says, it's the space between the bars that hold the tiger. And that's a fun metaphor that really encourages us to shift in perception, because most of us have been to a zoo, right? To see animals that wouldn't be seen in our lives without traveling to other countries. And his message was like in that phrase, to highlight the idea of emptiness, silence, or the in-between aspects of life that often play a more critical role that we tend to recognize. The challenge within this saying says, rather than focusing only on the physical or the material things like the bars that hold the tiger, we must also appreciate the intangible, the space. So that's sort of where we're going tonight. We're learning that when we that what we focus on, right, we expand in our life. And another way to say that is as the observer, and that's something that I'm really working on understanding for myself right now, becoming the observer of my body, of the things that I'm conscious to, and understanding that those things that I observe becomes my reality. Like it's not just a casual glance. It's totally observing, consciously observing. Consciousness is a key to understanding most of the shift that we're in. At our cottage, we have it's a beautiful living room, and it's a two-story um, glass actually. That it's an A-frame cottage, and so we've got glass going up. I don't know how many feet, 40 feet. It's very high anyway. It overlooks the lake. And I'm often just appalled at how dirty they are at times. And the top ones in particular, because you've got wind and snow and everything that lands on it. And it's too hard to reach for easy cleaning, but I have no excuse for the lower ones. But funny thing is, I don't notice the streaks and smudges because my focus is on the view, not the glass. And it's only when I consciously look at the glass that I see the smudges. If anyone asks me, tells me, Mom, those windows really need cleaning, I just say, well, windows are for looking through, not at. And that's sort of the philosophy here that we're talking about. The bars that hold the tiger are like that. They symbolize the tangible, visible structures that we typically focus on. But as we focus on the tiger, we don't see them anymore. Have you ever been to a zoo? Like they are the animals live in this space beyond the bars, and soon the bars sort of disappear, don't they? Tonight I thought we could explore this a bit because there's bars in our life, such as limitations, obstacles, or circumstances. They can all be bars. And sometimes we look through them. The space between the bars, although they're invisible, that truly contains that tiger, symbolizes in this aspect or this thought the unseen or tangible forces that create meaning, connection, and order. And just as the tiger lives in the space between the bars, we too have invisible spaces in our lives that create our environment. And there's unseen aspects of our existence, and it's in the silence and the patience and the seeming voids that allow form to exist. What I hope that you'll take away is understanding that from a place of that of a realm that we really don't see in silence, actually something is forming to exist in our lives. So this quote invites us to move from a purely materialistic or external perspective to one that appreciates the unseen. And it's about seeing beyond the obvious. So let's look at another example. Some of you might relate to this more because I know a lot of you are musical, or at least most of us appreciate music. And there's a composer named Claude Debussy, and he was a French composer, and he famously said, "Music is the space between the notes." We think of music, all those black dots on the sheet. We think that we're going to read the music. But here he's saying the music is the space between the notes, not the notes. In music, it's the pauses, right, between the notes that create the rhythm and meaning. So you can have the notes go boom, 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 boom. But when you go boom, 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 it's a whole other rhythm and it's a whole other meaning. Sometimes it's not sometimes it's what is not there that plays a more vital role than what is. And life is like music. It needs silence to create rhythm, meaning, and beauty. The pauses in the music are not empty, just like our pauses in our life are not empty. They're full of potential, they're full of presence, they're full of peace. And embracing the space in music and in our life allows us to live more intentionally and connect more deeply with any piece of music. The phrase space between the notes refers to the silence or the pauses in music, which are as important as the notes themselves. And this concept originates from musical theory, but it also expands into our life, into our physical life, and into our spiritual. In music, the space between the notes, the rests, the pauses, or the silence is what gives rhythm, timing, and emotion. Without space, the notes would just blend into a bunch of chaos. The pauses allow the listener to process and feel the music more deeply. Can you relate all that understanding to your life as well? Without pauses, we don't feel life as deeply because we're in this chaos of moving all the time. The space between the notes in life can represent moments of waiting, of rest or silence, just as music would be incomplete. So is our life without it. And the pauses in life, the moments of stillness or transition, are just as important as the action. So if you're in a place right now of transition, a pause in your life, do you know what? It can be a really important one because this might be the very thing that gives shape to your experience and allows you to reflect and breathe and prepare for what's next. When Wayne Dyer, in his one of his talks, used this particular phrase, he said, "It's the silence between the notes that make the music. It's out of the void, out of the emptiness, that everything is created." I'm going to read that again. It's out of the void, out of the emptiness, that everything is created. And you know, in Hebrews 11:3, it says, "By faith we understand the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen is not made out of what is visible." What if that became our reality? We would have to understand that this universe, this kingdom of God, all created matter, had its origin in the invisible, which is God, which is in the field, which is in the quantum universe, which is in the I am of God. There's so many terminologies for it, actually. And for this to become our reality and to be able to co-create with God, we may have to stop long enough in our timeline to let the silence speak. Do we embrace moments of quiet and inactivities, or do we need to fill the space? If we look at the spaces in our lives as empty, like saying things like, "That's just a waste of time," or let us think that inactivity is laziness. I don't know how many feel that. That if you do, we'll never create the music that we have from within us. Not only are the times of quiet and inactivity not a waste of time, they're opportunities for renewal and for growth, for rest, for healing, for preparation. Without these pauses, life can become overwhelming or monotonous, like music played too fast. In relationship, as in conversations, silence often holds more meaning than words. Have you ever heard of people say that was a pregnant pause, or the silence was deafening? Well, that's the space between the notes. That's the pause where understanding and connection occurs. If somebody shares something with you that's deeply personal, a pause can show empathy and give space for the emotion to resonate. Filling every moment with words can drown out meaning. I know that many of you are aware we've lost a very close friend to a suicide. We have another friend in the hospital right now who's on life support, really. He's on a ventilator and he's not responsive. And I know in these times, and I'm just bringing it up because it's very personal to us right now, that when we're sort of learning um, how to deal with these things in our life, certainly for all the things that we're learning, so to stay in our frequency so we can be help to others. And one of the things that I'm realizing in these times is exactly what I just said. To fill every moment with words or think that we have to explain something or say something, I'm realizing that it's okay to just show up with people, just be there, just allow your presence to speak the words, right? And then in that way, too, we learn to appreciate the unspoken moments in relationships, quiet time together. If this happens with each other, imagine how much meaning they have that this silence or this attitude to silence and just being, which is what we talked about last week. Imagine if they have this much meaning to us, how God feels about it. You know, one of the blessings for me with all of you, with our river family, is that we have spent over these last few years time together to get to know each other. And there's been times in our group meditation times and our intention times that there's been many times where there's been long silences, and those times are not awkward. What a blessing. I just every time that it happens that we come into that silence and knowing there's still that unity, the frequency that comes together that just is a blessing, and it's just not awkward. It just feels like home. You guys feel like home. There's many spiritual traditions like meditation or prayer that emphasize the importance of silence and stillness. And the space where we connect with God or our higher self is really done best in that place where Psalm 46 says, "Be still and know that I am God." In stillness, we find clarity, peace, and divine presence. When we create space in our life for silence and spiritual connection, these positive from these positive they are positive these pauses from activity allow us to realign with our purpose and experience God's presence. Just the time sometimes the silence actually real with each other realign our purpose and experience together as well. I call it the power of pause. Creativity often flourishes in the space between ideas, and when we stop pushing and allow stillness, inspiration flows more freely. Have you ever just been in a shower or standing under a waterfall? Even sounds magnificent. I watched a friend do that today on a video. But in a shower, how many times in a shower where you're just there by yourself, the water's coming down, do you get these amazing revelations or inspirations? Or if you're a jogger or if you walk in the woods, it seems like the silence in the activity that is just is not mindful, is mindless. And in that mindless time, it makes room for amazing clarity and creativity at times. A life lesson that I'm personally learning is not to rush from one task to another. If there's an interruption in something, I used to get really frustrated because I like finishing a project. But now I just give myself time to pause and reflect. That doesn't mean give up or be careless or not be mindful of it, But I take these times when there is that kind of interruption, if you will, to allow those moments to be a rest and to allow my mind to process and then generate in a new way. You look at Jesus's life, right? And really that's who I want to. He's such an amazing example to emulate. And I was spending some time in the quiet and meditation on this particular subject, just watching his life, and I realized he walked everywhere he went. Now, I know the society didn't have cars, and I know we did, planes, trains, or automobiles, but I love the thought of the 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 amazing existence. And I know there were hardships and all that go with it, but imagine just walking everywhere you go. You teach along the way, and you come to a hill, and you have people there, and you feed them. It just seems so organic and so beautiful. And I know that I'm making light of it, but I'm really not. I believe that one of the reasons he came to Earth at that particular time, that it was a slower paced society. I'm not sure if he came at this time, the impact would be the same. We can say, oh, yes, it'd be great because we'd be on videos or whatever. But, you know, it's such a pleasure to watch his life and be able to see the organic nature of it in the slower pace. And if you look behind the scenes, remember the scripture or talks about Peter. He was with his disciples. He put them in a boat because they're going over the lake, and the disciples went out and a storm came. Remember, Peter saw Jesus walking, of course, because he walked everywhere. So now he's walking on the water. He's in the storm. Peter says, "Lord, is that you? And if it's that you, I'll come." And he he and Peter went, and then he started to sink. All that happened. Lots of beautiful, beautiful lessons. And then I looked at it and at that scripture, and it says after they sorted out why Peter um, had looked at the waves instead of continuing on to be with Jesus walking on the water, they got back in the boat, and it says immediately they were on the other side. Do you ever wonder why they just didn't do that at the first place? I looked at that scripture recently and I thought, I have so many questions. Why didn't they just translocate? They were going to do it anyway, but no, there's lessons in all of it. And we need to take that time to ask the questions for ourselves, don't we? Jesus went up to the mount, it says, into the mountain to pray. Take a look at those scriptures. What does that mean? Did it mean that he really went up into the mountain to pray? And what did that look like? And I'm not really sure, but as I learn about creating space between the notes, he may have just gone to rest, to be still, and to know and that's what encompassed what was being shared there. It's just an alternative, something to think about. We can look at the scriptures as stories, but if we see them metaphorically, they have great impact on our lives. And I love exploring them that way. And because they encourage our possibilities, and our possibilities become our realities. I'm personally reading scripture right now in that way, seeing the stories as analogies and that have metaphoric meaning as well. I just see the layers of what can come out of these, these beautiful writings. And when I do, they become very personal and very encouraging as well. In our daily activities, have you thought to create space by pausing between tasks or decisions or conversations? Or are you driven to get to the deadline, to push through it? Do you take time to reflect before moving forward? And the key in all of this, too, is a question that I ask myself. Do you trust your intuition? Because all of those The reflecting and trusting and making wise decision are all made best when we create that space of pausing, the space between the notes. When we spend time in silence or meditation, focusing on that space within us, it's that is our into the mountain to pray, into the mountain to meditate. Every time we do that, it brings us into a place called now. So I'm shifting in because Edgar Tolle, I was really inspired by some of his writings, and when he talks about the now. In one of them, he says, "The now is all there ever is. There is never a time when your life is not this moment." Is this not a fact? I just think that's an amazing. Never mind time. He said the power of now isn't just a concept, it's a practice. And by living it, you unlock a state of freedom, joy, and connection that transforms your life. The power of now lies in its ability to free us from the burdens of the past and the anxieties of the future. You know why? Because both our past and our future is now. When we live in now, in the present moment, it enables us to connect with life as it truly is, rather than through filters of memory, looking backwards, or anticipation, which can cause worry looking forward. The mind often replays, excuse me, past regrets, or it worries when it does. It is when if you're worried about something in the future, it we bring it into the now of the present. Whether we look at the regrets of the past or even the excitements of the past or the future, both of them, by our thoughts, become now of the presence. We have access to the inner stillness, to the space between the notes. The present moment called now holds a natural stillness beneath the surface of our busy life. The stillness is a space where intuition, creativity, and true understanding arise. It's the melody of our life. That's it. The stillness becomes the melody of our life, just like the stillness between the notes becomes the melody, becomes the song. Our life works the same way. By being fully present, we are fully conscious. You can access this inner stillness, which is the most deeply nourishing. It's a space between the notes. It's the space that's called now. When you live out of the place called now, our awareness sharpens. That place called now creates, well, we create through consciousness. What happens? And what happens is we're more conscious of even colors becoming brighter, sounds become clearer, sensations get deeper. When we live from consciousness rather than being on automatic pilot of our subconscious, if our conscious frequency is high, that means if our conscious frequency is our life being lived with courage, with joy, with peace, compassion, unconditional love, aren't they? They're all the highest frequencies, aren't they? The higher ones. When we live there, consciously live there, our awareness allows us to connect authentically with ourselves and others and the world around us. Relationships improve because we listen and we engage without distraction. And you know what? When we are aware and we live in that awareness, when we live consciously like that, we increase the access to our intuition. And we do that in the stillness of now, because it's in the stillness that it speaks the loudest. Enhanced awareness, it it comes in a tumble of understanding, and we're not aware that we have it in us, but we have. We have this enhanced awareness to recognize truth. Many people define themselves by their past experiences or by their future aspirations. This is what I did before. Aren't I great? Etc. Or my greatness is going to happen in the future. But you know what? When you live from those mindsets, you forget that you're living in now. What are you doing with your now? Living in the now dissolves this time-based identity. I had a friend, we had a family friend when I was growing up, and he was a major in the army. All his life, all of life that I knew him, he was somebody else's dad. He insisted on being called major, and he ran his life. His kids called him the major, his wife called him the major, and all the way everything functioned, all his friends. So not only did he introduce him, that's got on, he was the major. Major was a title, but it actually didn't define his character, because sadly, it didn't stand up under scrutiny. And his world around him revolved around himself and his reality. He lived in the past of he may have had an amazing career, but he would bring his ego into the now, and it really dispelled all of what it could have been, sadly, very sadly. Living in from the success of what we did in the past is wonderful to think about it. Every time you think about it, you bring it into the now. Every time you worry about a future, you bring it into now. So by anchoring ourselves in the now, we create space for growth. The space is the most critical to the creation of our song, that space. If we truly understood, I am the righteousness of God in Christ, I have the mind of Christ, I can do all things through Christ. What if we silently understood that and realized that it belonged in the now? You know, positive confessions, even our I am confessions, our I am realities, if we are doing it by rote, as though uh, something we've just learned and throwing it out there, if we do it that way, it's not bad. But when we silently understand, when we consciously engage, we bring actually the reality of that truth into now. What would happen if we realized consciously? What would happen? What would change? I think a lot. I think a lot. We would give space to our personal transformation, for one thing. How do we achieve that? Well, we achieve it by embedding the truth into our subconscious. Science tells us that we live 95% of our life through our subconscious. Do you know that? Our subconscious is the skills and the understandings that we have, things that we have learned, and we've learned it by rote. We've learned it by practice. We've learned it by putting it in over and over. It's like riding a bike. Most of us did not get on a bike and just ride off. Many of us had a parent or an uncle or older brother, hold the bike as you're learning to drive it and ride it, and it takes over and over. Same with swimming, right? Same with swimming. You had to practice, and then you got it. For heaven's sakes, that was what walking. We'd take a few steps, we'd fall. We'd take a few steps, and we'd fall. These skills, driving a car, all of these things we learned by practice. We practiced until we got it. And when we got it, it embedded in ourselves in our subconsciousness, and we never looked back. And you never really thought the same way. You weren't afraid to ride a bike anymore. As a matter of fact, if you haven't ridden a bike in 20 years, there's probably inside you, you might say, well, I haven't been on a bike for a while, but you'd get on and you'd ride. How did all those skills get there? Practice, practice, practice. And by our conscious understanding and practice. They were purposeful decisions. And all the elements were in place for us when we learned to do these things. And we don't forget them. The elements are still available for transition in every spiritual desire we might have. Do you know that? How do we embed the truth that I am the righteousness of God in Christ, that I have the mind of Christ, that I can do all things through Christ? It's not a theory. It's not a history lesson of what someone said. It's true. And it's true when we live in it and when we bring it into our reality, when we allow our consciousness to bring it and live from now. Now I am the righteousness of God in Christ. It's not just a theory. Now I have the mind of Christ. It's not just a theory, and it belongs to you. When you live in the now, you surrender to life as it is without resisting or clinging. And we can say the same thing about what I just said. When we surrender to the truth in our life, that is what begins to truly exist. The power of now is the consciousness, the conscious awareness of now exclusively. The space between the notes is the magic in the song. The now in our consciousness is the magic in our life. Just like the magic in the song, those spaces give the song its essence. It defines its purpose, and it gives the note life. If you're going to play that song that we've all been given, that for us to release, we need to bring the now of the space of whatever it is that you consciously desire into that place. For instance, we need to accept what is and release resistance to thoughts that project into the past or into the future. There's so much to say, but the best lesson is the one that we activate within ourselves to bring change and encouragement. And that's what I'd like just to do for a few minutes tonight as we close here. This is going to just present to you a guided meditation that will create the space in our lives, the space that is unlimited, that space where creativity flows, where problems are solved, where direction is clear, where intuition is nurtured. This is a really easy meditation, because the best place to do it is in silence. And it's real simple, just absolutely simple. And it's one that we can engage in anytime, any place. So let's try it now together. Let's just I hope if you're in a silent, I hope that you are in a silent place, or a silence you can get wherever you are. Just sit quietly. Just find that peaceful place. And again, sit comfortably. You can sit, you can lay down, and close your eyes if it feels natural. Just sit. Okay. Now take a deep breath in and out. Just let everything relax where you are. Breathe in Okay, now notice the inhale and the exhale of your breath. Just keep breathing. Feel the air entering and then leaving your body. Can you hear that the inhale has a different sound to the exhale? Just be totally conscious right now. Consciously breathe in, consciously breathe out. We're going to just stay in that state and focus only on your breath. Now focus on what your other senses are aware of. Maybe there's a sound from another room, a sound outside your home. Maybe the subtleties of a furnace turning on very quietly. What do you feel on your body? Can you become aware of how your shirt feels, your socks feel? Maybe you have a blanket on your legs. How does that feel? There are birds, wind. Okay, what is present in your emotional state right now without judgment? Can you just focus on how you're feeling emotionally? If your mind drifts to the past or the future, just gently return it to your breath. Simply rest. See, now when we come to the realization of being in this gap, the place between the bars, the place between the notes, that place is called silence. And you may want to stay there if you can. Sometimes it's a great way to go to sleep because you've created a gap, a space between those bars. It's a place at rest. Your mind is freed from other thoughts. And think of it where this place that you have yourself in has the unlimited resources of the kingdom that can now be accessed. Nothing is impossible. All right, we're going to come back into the room. I have one more thought, something to think about, and that is what you do frequently becomes your frequency. What we do frequently becomes our frequency. Mhm. All right, I wanted to share that with you, that the particularly that little bit of a meditation, because when you follow it from just realizing, pay attention to your breathing, nothing else, no other thought, pay attention to it going in. Actually sounds different than leaving. When you just do that, when you set your mind on how the cloth feels on your skin, your socks feel on your feet, your shoes, I just love looking at Jen. Sorry, I'm just distracted right now because she's so affirming. I think she's into this. Um, when we do that, and when we set ourselves that consciously into the simplest things in our function, and we're still aware of our hearing, our feeling, and our emotions, but it sets us into that place that's a space. And when we set it into that place that is the space, we become unlimited because we're not distracted by anything else. When we can do that, I've been doing that a lot lately. Ed probably thinks I'm napping, but I'm not. I like to get comfortable. I like lying down and learning to just take that sweet time of focusing, and it takes 3 to 5 minutes to do, but it changes your awareness. And you know what? Like I've been trying to share, you become the melody, you become the song, because we can have all the notes going in our life, but it's that space that you create and how you create it in peace and in that silence that becomes the song in your life. There's no striving there. You don't have to do anything. Nobody is judging your spirituality or ability or anything. Your ego's not attached to it. You're completely can be in your sacred self in that capsule. Anyway, okay. That's all I know. That's all I know. But I actually like doing that. Todd, I'm sorry it's about silence, and I know that you're an action figure, but here we are.
You were totally speaking right to him.
Oh, yeah,
The whole thing.
absolutely. I'm like, does she know I'm right here?
Actually, I knew we had a couple of texts, you and me, today, and it was while I was writing this. So yes, Todd. Yes, I'm very aware. That's funny.
That was so beautiful. And for the folks who were on earlier, I was just talking, I was so proud of myself, honestly, that I did go to sleep with silence. Not a book, not even meditation music, just silence and just letting the Lord minister, put me to rest, which is a big step for me. But you said something really cool. When I run, there's some trails that I run out here that are in the woods, and I'm often listening to a book or a podcast, but there's one section and it's switchbacks. It's very much, a lot of sharp S turns, because it's a mountain bike and hike and bike trail. I can't tell you how many times I've been out there running and I've been into the book or into the podcast that I'm listening to, and I hit that section of the woods. And I just know that I'm supposed to just stop it. So I just stop the noise and I just run. And I'm telling you, I am running I used to say I'm running with Jesus. I'm running with the Christ. And the semantics, if you've read Richard Rohr, you get it. It is really the reunification of all things. I'm out in the woods. There's nobody around me. I don't care if somebody passes me or not, but in those moments, just in the silence, I don't need a distraction. I'm there and I'm just there. And I am where I'm supposed to be with all of creation in those moments. And I didn't really have the words for it before. I said, I'm running with Jesus, and it's so powerful. It's not every time, but it's quite often. And I cherish it so deeply. But you said it. You said it. Like when you're out walking in the woods and you just notice the silence. That's it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Isn't it amazing the power of silence?
Ah.
It truly has a power, like really, truly. It is quite incredible. Quite
I'm gonna
incredible.
share too, if I can.
Yeah.
I I love this so much. I read The Power of Now a few years ago, and oh my gosh, present, beingness, all those words. It's like that's what we're experiencing. And lately, you talked about this a while back, maybe a year ago, but when we first started our meditations, you said, find a comfortable position where your back is straight. And so I'll sit cross-legged. Like I have a place in the bedroom and then I'll sit here at the table because Jen and I go into silence and then we do communion before every meal. And so that gives me a chance just, throughout at least that's 3 times right there every day. And then I find other times, but I just, like you said, that which you do frequently, you become, or however you
Becomes your
said it.
frequency.
Becomes your frequency.
Yes.
That's
Because
right.
I just can feel like our real body is our energetic body. And so we're coming into the awareness of that. And I feel it all the time now. It's like, I guess we've always had it, but I guess the awareness now and the frequency is rising. But Debbie, you said this a couple times ago that your body's changing, and we uh,
Mhm.
everything is changing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So that's what I wanted to share.
I love that. And I love that I love that we're changing from what's already good. We're not changing because of duress. We're changing because consciously we want to live from those higher frequencies of love and compassion and good and all that rather than constructing the fear and doubt and shame and all those. Just being aware. Our consciousness is so important.
I had a dream this week, I think it was, but it was a really impactful dream. And one part of it, I was told it's not about pain imprint, it's about pleasure imprint. And that's what we're learning. Like that state of being is just pleasure. That is our reality, is
Right.
just we are this pleasure of God, the swirling pleasure.
I know.
Gosh. Yeah.
Isn't that
And
great?
even as we do it, it's like replacing all those places in our, like you said, like when we go back to the past, or, these places that have made an impact, they're just being swallowed up. We're being lifted up where they just don't even exist anymore.
Right.
I mean, just maybe as testimony,
Yeah.
it's a powerful testimony, but it's no longer in the sound that we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really, I love the way you put it. I love the way you put it. Thank you. That's so good.
One more thing I want to share is when you were talking about the bars, when Jen years ago, when I would take her to the zoo, her vision, she couldn't see, she would just see the bars. She couldn't
Oh,
see the animals behind it. But that's changed. But it's like the Lord has taught me so much through Jen. So it's like even that, see beyond, see beyond.
yeah.
Yeah.
Into the space, right? Into
Days.
the space.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Thank you guys, both of you. Thank you, Todd. I'm absolutely, Eddie, our little boy is growing up. He's actually talking about silence. This is so good. It's not easy. It's not easy.
I
Sorry.
wanted to start.
Thank you, guys. Kathy.
I too love that you were talking about the power of now because it's been something that's really been stirring, in me just because we can give so much power to the past, especially in traumatic things that we walk through or experience or we live in. But but just the living in the now and not. I was the one thing that had come to mind too is that our body doesn't know the difference. If you're thinking in the past, you're actually stimulating all these hormones, and your amygdala and all this stuff is activating if you're focusing in on those things. And I imagine the future too. And that's part of what we talk about, when we're have our life movies and and stirring up those things that we are experiencing, that and our emotion will impact that, right? But the other thing that you had said that was very meaningful to me was about being able to sit in silence. Is I don't know if many of you know, my mom is 94, and I go sit with her and visit her. And often I feel like, oh, I have to say, what's going on with Sammy, what's going on and try and fill the time with conversation, because there's a little bit of dementia. And so you're feeling she doesn't talk a lot anymore. Like, she'll just make a few comments here or there, but learning that it's okay just to sit and be present with her, just to sit and hold her hand, and that there's power in that, and just to look at what she's looking at, and be captivated by the things that are captivating her attention. And it's hard, when you're so used to having back and forth conversation with a person, and then when that changes, but there is such power in just being present there. And because the staff will always say, oh, she just comes alive when you guys come. Like, you can tell, like, it just means so much to her. So anyways, that the power presence of being present in that, and um and it being okay with silence. So I just really appreciate how you brought all that together tonight. It was beautiful.
Well, I really appreciate what you just said, and it's a lesson too. It's very difficult to be with people like your mom if she's not talking and quiet herself. It's nice to realize the power in the silence when you're present to her. That works for ourselves. When we are silent within ourselves, the same thing happens. When we're silent with God, we don't have to fill uh, the air with. I was watching the inauguration, as probably half the world did on Monday. And I'm listening to the prayers of all these people and I'm thinking, I'm really sorry, guys, but God knows all the dialogue, not the dialogue. He knows all the stuff. There wasn't a prayer in sight. It was really odd. It was really, really odd. And taking the time in the silence, can you imagine? Because everything is in there. Every possibility is in the silence. And he knows it. God knows it. We don't even have to tell him. Jen knows it for sure. Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. You're really blessed, and your mom's really blessed. Gina girl.
Well, that was really fun. Because this week, after last week, I felt like I was in this lull. Well, I felt like that since the beginning of the year. But it sort of came to me. I thought, what am I feeling? I don't even know. And I'm in a lull. And I thought, okay, a lull is a rest. A lull is a pause. And today I wrote in my journal, press pause on it all. Let the silence arise in you.
Wow.
So when you start talking, I'm just like, oh, okay. If that's not a confirmation, I don't know what is. And then I also wrote, the silence in the music is the natural breath, and the stillness of the life and power of the whole. And so at that same time, I attributed it to music because I know the power of the silence in it.
Right.
I mean, even violinists breathe, in between the phrases. You have to. It's a
Didn't
life
know that.
of
Didn't know
piece.
that.
Yeah. So,
You
so, um,
mean they breathe on purpose with the music?
I think so.
Wow.
You breathe. It's the natural thing to do
Ah, yeah,
because it's not, you can't go through this whole thing without a breath,
right.
right? I mean, I know it's the instrument, but they become the thing. Anyway, I'll ask my daughter, see if she actually breathes. She's a singer too, so she probably does, but whatever. I don't know. I breathed when I played piano
Yeah, yeah,
because it's the feeling of the end of that phrase
yeah.
and the pause and the rest, or it's a rest, and you go on to the next. So anyway, that was fun that you were talking about all of this because and I believe that everybody has one of these stories because that's where we are right now.
Right, right.
We're in a rest. It's quite beautiful. So if you feel like you're in a lull and you think, what the heck is this? I'm not used to lulls. Go with it. You know, yeah, that's all.
That's excellent. That's really excellent. When you feel you're in a lull, just go with it. But it's true. But it's true. We get more done out of peace than we do out of pressure and chaos.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Todd
And
wrote
I
in
think
the
it
chat.
connects you
Oh,
with
sorry.
um, your quintessential self, your higher self,
Yeah,
because there's no other way to actually do that.
exactly. Exactly.
Todd wrote in the chat. He wrote, "A lull is just the beginning of a lullaby."
Oh,
Good.
that's cute. That's really good. That's really good. All right. Everyone else okay? I'm just nodding.
I was listening to Eckhart Tolle's teaching on a podcast this morning. It just was the next podcast that played, and it was just lovely in the way he speaks and the slowness. I can hear it now as I'm talking to you guys, to you ladies and gents. It's that he said this thing about, he mentioned, Jesus speaking about the kingdom of heaven. And he said, but in our language today, the kingdom is really like the dimension. I thought of you, Helen, because I know you talk about dimensions more than many that I know. And he said, and it's within, but it's really, when you think of heaven, it's spaciousness, It's just sort of like the dimension of spaciousness is within you. And I thought, oh, lovely.
I
See,
yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. You're right. It's my language. One of the things that I enjoy when I come into just doing this little activation, this little meditation that takes, like I said, 3 or 4 minutes.
Mm.
When I come into that place of just the stillness and into the silence of it, there are sometimes that I will sit with it because I so like the reality of the silence, and I put myself into the reality of our existence in the universe, and then I give my consciousness to
Mm.
what all that means. It means that I am living beyond normal capabilities. I am unlimited. That means that everything in this space that I am living in my existence, is a possibility that's waiting to be created because it already exists just for me.
Oh,
Just for me. That's how much he loves every one of us. Whatever it is, it's just for you and it's waiting to take form. It looks like it might not be anything, but you, by your awareness and your consciousness, you release that to be done, and it comes. And when you sit and you meditate, it changes you, and you will no longer say, I need,
oh,
I want, maybe, it, because you feel and see, and start beginning to live in that reality. And it is a dimension that has, as you can see, I'm not finding the right words for it. It becomes your reality because it just is.
oh.
And, and it is because I am. Caroline, lovely to see you. You're muted, dear. You're muted. You're muted.
What a waste of what a waste of all my good words. Such a waste.
Pick them up and throw them up again.
Yeah, okay. I was just telling you actually how much I love you all, but you do need to be told that again. Anyway, this week I listened to a random podcast which said, I don't know, it's some chap I've never listened to, but he popped up and he said the word wait. And you see, I felt like it was God telling me, because I talk too much. I'm far too big a talker. And you know what? Like, what do I think I am? The most important person in the room, or what? So I said to God, you have to teach me to stop talking as much. And so up popped this random podcast, and the guy said he had an acronym for WAIT, WAIT, and it was, why am I talking? And then he went one worse. He said, what about waste? Why am I still talking? So, but anyway, I've been practicing that all week, even with God, just with God. And then I thought, I'm going to stop asking God all this stuff. And like at the moment, I'm doing a little study thing for myself, not for you or anyone else, about Jesus, because I've never really known Jesus. I got shot through straight to God, the Father. And I just felt that it would be quite nice to know a bit about Jesus for myself, the spiritual side of it all. And the only one thing I've had so far is that the blood, I'm not going to call it blood anymore. I'm sick of blood. It's going to be called life. So that he just brought us life. So that's what God told me himself. But anyway, that's the end of that. But I just wanted to pass on that I said that he told me wait. And it's been the best thing. My word for the week is wait. Why am I talking? So on that great principle, I think I'd better go on to mute now. Thanks for listening.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, thank you. You just given everybody permission just to go on mute and wait. We can just sit here and look at each other. Oh. With Susan, you're allowed to speak. I can't get this up. What did you say?
I think she's going to unmute, but she said, what a lovely evening with you all. I have a 5 a.m. wake up tomorrow, so I've got to head to bed. Blessings. We love you, Susan.
We love you. Good night.
Nighty night.
Sweet dreams. That's all right.
I have a funny. So first, I want to say that was also for Todd. So yeah. And the other thing I want to say is, so Connor, Jen's brother, he's a year older. younger, but he always was a planner, like his dad. But always when he was growing up, Mom, what are we gonna do? Mom, what are we gonna do later? Mom, what are we gonna do? And I'm like, let's just flow. I don't know. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So my answer to him always was, we're gonna sit and look at each other and love each other. And so when you just said that, and now he uses it all the time, with his girlfriend, they'll like joke with each other, but that was always my answer. And it just didn't have to, stress out and make something up.
That's so good. That's so good. What? Okay, wait. What is the I?
Why am I?
Why am I
Oh,
talking?
am I? Right.
And why am I still talking?
Oh, that made my day. This is good. All right. Eddie Bear.
Well, anyway, when we first started dating, I realized that, or you realized that sights and sounds and television, they'd all be distracting to me. So you would choose a place, let's say in a restaurant, and I would sit beside you or across from you, and then you'd ask me like, "What are you looking at?" And I'm going, so eventually, or I had to change. So I almost took the chair that I wanted, which was facing away from the television, away from distractions, so that I could concentrate on you. And you mentioned the fact that what you do frequently becomes your frequency. So this was good. And then Todd was saying he was or not always, but sometimes go to sleep with the radio on, or with not a radio on, but with sounds, and I can't do that. So and you know that you are very upset with me that when I'm ready for bed, I close myself or whatever, and I say good night, kiss, and I'm gone.
I
And
know.
you go like, what is this? Like, I was still talking. And I said, well, I was finished, and another example was that just the other day when I went to see the doctor, and he's supposed to give me a physical and whatever, and did his little thing. And when I go to see a doctor and he gives you a physical, my blood pressure goes up because he might prod me or whatever. So it's uncomfortable, and I feel very badly in my. So he says your blood pressure is a little high. He says, "Are you still taking blood pressure medicine?" And I'm saying, "No, I'm just taking supplements." But I said, "Just a minute. While you're talking, I'll lower my blood pressure." And I don't know if he laughed or not, but so I concentrated and I just relaxed and sort of fell asleep. I didn't, but I'm relaxed. And he says, and I said, "You can take my blood pressure now." And he did. And he says, "I don't know what just happened, but if if you're going to have an operation and they take your blood pressure, do whatever you did now." And I said, "Yeah, it's different when you get an operation than when you get prodded with for a physical." So I didn't want to explain to him why my blood pressure was high at that time when thinking about it, just thinking about it. So that's, me, and that's the end of the story.
No, it's a great story, and there's only going to be probably 70,000 people that hear it now, but that's okay. No, I love that story, and I love the fact that we're at a place, like all of us, right? All of us, that we're implementing what we're learning and believing. Like it's not a theory out there somewhere that somebody else does, but you know how to lower it, you know how to regulate your own body, and that's really the magic of it all. So I just say good for you. Kudos, that's that's amazing. Awesome. Thank you, hon. Todd, Elizabeth, and Jen.
Uh, Probably you've talked about this, and probably everybody else knows, but it made me think, you talking about the silence, and I guess it's Eckhart Tolle, trying to think, it doesn't matter, but was talking, it helped me because there's always sounds going on, and so to really focus on silence, it's explaining that the only reason you can hear sound is because it's on the backdrop of silence. Like the silence is always there, and that's the only reason why you can hear sound. That really helped me.
Yeah,
Like even just knowing that I'm able to just kind of drop into underneath whatever the dog's barking, whatever it is,
yeah,
go into that constant, you
yeah,
know, constant. Yeah.
yeah. No, I think that's that's excellent, and that's the shortcut to the process of the focusing on breathing, that and I really think, and that's sort of what Ed does. He didn't go into a 5-minute meditation to drop his blood pressure. He knew by practice that he can do that by bringing his system into alignment using his consciousness. And that's sort of, you became conscious of the silence. And that's really excellent. That's super. Donna.
I heard someone just this week say that, and she was talking about, our minds going crazy and thinking all the time. Well, first of all, she said, we can't be responsible for the first thought that we think, but we are responsible for the thoughts that come behind that, which of course means that we choose to, think on something that's negative, say.
Yeah.
But I also heard, it was something different, but anyway, this person was talking about how all of the thoughts that we think happen right here in the front of our brain. And she said, or he said, in the back of the brain, there are no thoughts going on. So he said that if you concentrate on the back of your head, the back of your brain, there are no thoughts going on there. It's quiet and it's silent. And I have actually been doing that, and it really has worked for me. It's amazing.
Hey, or Donna, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I'm not that super familiar with how our brain works, but it makes sense that there's a place that that it has that capability if we have the capability to be in silence.
I know it. It
right?
was, yeah,
Oh,
it was just like an exercise that we could do.
oh,
And I've been doing that, and it truly has calmed down my thoughts.
nice, nice. I'm gonna put that one in my toolbox too. This is good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
That's really interesting because I remember when I was having my first baby, and I was reading some books, and there was one, I forget what it was called, but it was Dr. Michel Audin from France, and he was speaking about natural childbirth and how we get into that. And he said, if we activate the base of the brain and go there, and that's where the calm is, that's where there's no thoughts, and you go into that zone, which I thought was pretty interesting. And when you said that, it reminded me of that. And I think that it's the cerebellum, because it's at the base of the stem. Like it's right at the base of the head, on top of the stem. So I think that's it. But it's this lovely area where you don't think, and then you let your body do what it's supposed to do. So, I mean, especially for childbirth, right? Yeah. So.
So, okay. So Donna, Gina, I love that because
Yeah, go ahead.
this is new to me. Is there a way to do that? Is there, that's what it does. Is it like, teach me to do it. I want to do it.
Well, she just said, or he just said that you, just like Gina just said, that there is a place
Okay.
that you can go, mentally.
Okay.
Mentally, there is a place that you can go in your brain that there is silence.
Cool.
And so I'm serious. I have been practicing that and focusing on that area, wherever that area is. And I am able to control my thinking when I'm meditating.
Right.
Nice.
Is
That's
that that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm sitting there realizing, do you know what came to mind when I'm listening to both of you is Jesus went up into the mountain. And I went, maybe this is our up into the mountain, that place of just being, right? It's
Yeah.
already in us. It's already created in there for us.
It's also the location of cranial sacral therapy, right there at the base of the head, at the top of the spine,
Wow.
right at that spot. And it's a deep relaxation. And people just, they're not thinking. It's beautiful.
Wow. Okay. Well, we have a scientist on board, Claudia. She says, I think it is the medulla oblongata. Okay. Well, this is kind of fun. I knew nothing about this. It'll be when Ed falls asleep, as he will very fast. I'm going to try that because I like doing this. Hi, Claudia.
It is the medulla. You're right. Aren't you smart?
Hi. Sorry, I'm driving home. It's dark here, so I look a little spooky here.
That's okay. We're glad to have you on board.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's a part of the brainstem, so it's like the one part below pons. Yeah, so it's below cerebellum. Yeah, that's the space. Like I completely forgot about it, so I'm glad you brought it up.
That's very
It's
cool.
almost like I think that place I was thinking about when there's a joke about men, if I can say that they have an empty box that they can go into and think about nothing.
Yeah. 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 Is it okay, ladies? Is that not the most frustrating thing in the whole world?
Yes.
You ask your husband, "What are you thinking?" and he says nothing. Like I don't even want to say what I think at that moment.
It makes me want to be a man.
Oh, okay. Eddie, I want to hear what you're saying. Please unmute. Yeah, I have to unmute, dear.
It's a location in your brain where you think of nothing. It's a space.
Sure, sure.
No,
No,
it's good because we get to practice acts. That's what we learned tonight.
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm loving
So
this
that's what you're
conversation.
saying, right? Ed, I get you. I hear you totally. And I think the vagus nerve is in and around that, right? Claudia, is that correct?
Yeah, it's very close there.
There
Yes.
you go. So the vagus nerve is like a huge thing of calm and all that. So yeah, whatever. I'm not going to go into all that now, but and you can be quiet and spacey there.
Yeah.
I
Well,
love it.
I'm just learning now, maybe so that maybe this is within all of us, we have the male, female, we have that dichotomy, right? That's in all of us, and we're developed stronger in one way than the other. What I love the fact, I love the concept of being able to someone say, what are you thinking? And me saying nothing, like just being not shut down, not actually more alive, more aware in the silence. Now that I understand how silence works, now I'm not as
Offended.
no, I don't think I was offended, but not you question, how can you not think of nothing? How can you think of nothing? It's not possible, but evidently it is. Evidently it is. So all those words that I ever said, Eddie, please forgive me. And uh, Todd, for the nature of the beast that you represent as well, please forgive me for all of masculinity out there. Did not think it was possible. I have to take it all back. Oh dear. Oh dear.
Oh, wait, they still can't find the milk in the fridge, so whatever.
No kidding. No kidding. There you go.
Yeah, Helen, I was gonna ask also for you and for anybody else too. I really appreciate this topic today about getting into silence, and some of the suggestions were already brought up, but I do have a hard time to stay in that silence place. So I know you have mentioned to always come back into breath and breathe in and out. Are there any other tools you would suggest if you have like a really busy brain and you just want to stay there and
Yeah.
go deeper?
Yes. Well, first of all, something as simple as the one we just talked about tonight, about, being aware of your breathing, because now you're taking your thoughts and placing them on something in your own quiet time, in your own quiet. And what that does is it quiets you. You don't have to do it for a long time at all. Just do it until you feel it. Once, for instance, you get the thought or the understanding of your breathing out is sounds different to you than you're breathing in, and then you have this awareness. All of these are settling factors. I totally understand monkey brain and your mind not being able to turn off. One of the things that I have used and still use to calm that one down is you cannot think and hum at the same time. So if that's happening, I'll breathe in and I'll go breathe in, and just do that, and realize what happens is it shuts down the thinking because you can't think and hum at the same time. But I see Kathy's got her hand up, and I'm gonna.
Love that. Thank you.
There might be more. Stay tuned, Claudia. Okay.
Something that I have done when I have those thoughts, like Claudia was saying, is there's two things. One is either I imagine a fluffy cloud and I put those thoughts that won't stop, I put them on the cloud and let it drift away. Or more recently, I've been using a boat, just a visual of putting that thought in a boat, and I just let it go. And I'll find it again if I need to, if it's something like I need to remember to do something, I sometimes I'll write it down, but if it's more just an ongoing one. I just visually let it float away, sort of acknowledge it, but then let it go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically what it's doing. So, but I use that visual. That really seems to help me.
Are you a visual learner too, Kathy?
Yeah, I'm very visual.
Yeah. So that I am too, that those kind of things. That's why when I used to do a lot of counseling, I would encourage people to write down the situation and light a match to it or throw it in a fire, because then you see it, or actively write down something and then redact it with black ink or paint so they see it disappearing, and that seems to work for we have lots of these little things that work for us. Todd and Elizabeth, did Todd leave us?
Yeah, he had to go
Mhm.
do his nightly stuff. Kathy, I like that. And Helen, I remember you saying, put it like, see it in a balloon floating up. Yeah, that was really helpful, because it's like we experience that. Okay. But I was going to say, again, back to the power of now. He talked about the energy, like experiencing, spirit is energy. And so tuning in to the energy within, and you can even do this when you're going to bed at night. You can put all of your awareness, like feel the energy in your head, and you can even move down your body. And he says, like, that's filling your body with consciousness. If you feel like you're coming down with something, to go through your body and fill it with consciousness really helps, like, raise your frequency. But that's what I do is even if I'm having thoughts, I will tune in to feeling. So however you experience presence, I'm sure we all do in our unique way. But for me, it's that feeling. It's aware, it's that sensation. Like I was saying, it's that pleasure. And as you tune into it, it increases, right? Where your focus goes, energy flows, so it just increases. And if your mind continues, you just continuously just tune back in, and it gets easier and easier. At first your brain is like controlling things, but the more you do this, the more like, boom, I'm there. As soon as you like get into that position and feel it, it's like you're just locked in.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great. I love these all the different ways. They're good reminders, and whatever works, right? Whatever works. Recognizing the silence brings peace, and that is a component of our lives we want to really live from. Well, everybody seems very peaceful tonight. Everyone's behind their little names. Hope you haven't fallen asleep. Oh, there you are, Greg. Phew. You fell asleep and you're awake now? Oh, Donna.
You
Oh,
weren't supposed to know that.
oh, okay. Donna.
Yes, I just wanted to say that what you said about prayer tonight so encouraged me, because I have found that I've been much quieter during my prayer time. A lot less words, and many times no words. And it's been very strange. But I do know that I am standing in prayer on the behalf of many people. I'm just not using a lot of words.
Right.
And I guess it's just a silent prayer, but I know it's powerful, and I know that I am praying, but I'm just not using many words as I used to.
Right. Yeah, I think you're speaking for a lot of us, Donna, because we've sort of come to the point where we in Christ, right? Are living in Christ and in Christ consciousness and having the mind of Christ. When we come into the reality of that for ourselves, you realize fewer words are needed, because what on earth are we going to tell him, and that that he doesn't already know? And when to me, and I mean I spent years and years and years in prayer meetings and intercessions and all that kind of stuff. I look back on it. It was good for the time that we were in, and it built us to where we are today. But where we are today is actually knowing him more and in a more intimate way, and it becomes like an old married couple. Right? You don't need as many words at all, because the reaching for the hand and sitting in the silence says equally as much as a lot of words. And we certainly don't need in prayers to explain anything to him about what is going on. He already knew before they did it. Yeah. We're growing up. We're growing up.
Yes. Oh, can you hear me? I can't.
Debbie, yes.
Oh, you can't hear me? You know, it's so interesting. I just love all y'all so much. It's just every time we come together, it's like, this is who I am. And it's just so thrilling to be with a group of people that we're on the same wavelength or whatever. It's just, because my whole life I've always been friendly, but I've always wanted to connect on a deeper level with people, and I never could hardly ever get anybody to go there with me. So, I mean, this group is just dynamite to me. But as we are talking, I can remember a dear friend of mine, and she's probably 12 years older than I am. And but anyway, and this was years ago. I've known her for, I don't know, 40 years now. But probably after I'd known, she was one of those people that when I met her, I felt like I had known her all my life. And I know that's happened to all of us, but this was like to a zillionth degree with this woman. I mean, it was just like, I didn't at that time understand that we were from before the foundation of the world. I didn't understand all those kind of things, but there was just this deep, intimate, instant connection. And I can remember after I'd known her about 10 years, I thought, and Kathy is a intercessor, prayer warrior. I mean, that's just who she is. But I realized her life was a prayer. And when I saw that in her, I think it's kind of what we're talking about. We become that. We become, I mean, our state of beingness, our frequency shifts and changes. And my lowest now is way higher than it used to be able to go to. And I feel that, the changing and the lifting of the frequency. And when y'all are talking about, like, all you have to do is, quiet down and become aware, and you can shift into a different frequency, into a different state of beingness. And it becomes that it happens just momentarily. Just the thought of it shifts you into it. That it has the momentum to shift you into it when you realize that you're not there. Mm-hmm. But anyway, it's, and I can remember, and I've told y'all this before, but it's always had such an impact on my life. And I was a very young Christian, and I had a friend that was in serious health, and he did end up dying. But and I was a young Christian, and this prophetic just came out of me about, to him to be the love, be the joy, be the light. Because at that moment when I was speaking to him, all that became really clear to me. But like Helen is teaching us, I mean, we have to embed this within us. But as we have those experiences where those flashes where it's so clear, and your feelings and your thoughts and your emotions and all that are all lined up, and you're not fragmented all over the place, or your attention in different places. It's those moments that are so transformational, but they feel elusive, but we actually become that. That's kind of the spark into it. And I find myself now, it's kind of like, I've learned to be the observer and observe myself, but now I'm whatever the presence is behind the observer. So it's this just this life in Christ just gets bigger and broader and more expansive and more out there by the minute. And I mean, I love all that, but it's it feels like to me in my life, it is just letting go of myself. And
Yeah.
It's so simple when you think about it. It's just surrendering all that, the weights and the chains and the patterns and the ways of being. But when we observe those and can see those, and then we realize that we are actually the presence observing all that, it becomes just a shift in focus that moves you into a different dimension.
That's right.
It does. It's amazing how all this works.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Isn't it a lovely place to get to that place of surrender and trusting the process?
Yeah. And it's like,
relax.
And it really is about going within. We just pause and go within. And I'm finding out now that, of course, I'm experiencing that the kingdom is within.
Right.
I'm experiencing that. I mean, I've always been taught that and theory and all that, but I'm getting in to realize that. And at the same time, the weight of, I'm seeing that every thought, actually, I can see I don't want to say a repercussion, because that's not really what it is, but our thoughts really do create, even the ones that we think don't, that we think are so minor and of no consequence. That muddles up your vibrational frequency state, and that's what we feel from each other, is that frequency, that vibrational beingness state. And and I feel myself like I'm starting to integrate that on the inside. And what happens is it starts going through to my body, and then I can feel it going out into the presence of who I am, I guess.
Right.
And it makes it it feels like it's fleshing out. The reality is what it feels like.
Well, I think you're describing well how many of us are on this journey with you, and it's a good place. It's just it's I love the fact that we can share and keep moving on.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Deb.
Yes.
That's,
Thank you for letting me share. Love y'all.
we love you. Well, I think tonight I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot. Thank you, Donna, for bringing up that place that I didn't know I had, and bringing up illustrations. Thank you all for contributing and letting us know. I've written down why am I still talking? So I love that, Caroline. It's really good. It's really good. Anyway, thank you for coming. For those of you who have snow and are blaming it on us Canadians, I all I can say is, snow actually is part of the silence. If you stand out in the snow when it's snowing, there's a silence that comes with that that's magic, is absolutely magic. And
Yes.
I wouldn't trade that season for anything.
Mhm.
Your snowman needed a carrot. I just want you to know for the nose. That's the tradition. Anyway, well, and I'm practicing a lot, hugging you guys, holding you all, and I I love seeing your faces because I truly am practicing that. Caroline, last week, yeah, would you, before we go, would you share your hug story, your hug testimony, Caroline? Oh, where are you? There you are. Would you share that? And then we'll sign off for tonight. There we
How's
go.
that?
Yeah.
Well, actually, to be honest, I heard it he just mentioned it in a very brief statement in passing. There was no focus on it. But it was,
not his.
I don't know,
Yours. Your.
Yeah, but he said it and I took it on board. It was Justin Abraham. And he said about spiritual hugs.
Okay.
And
yes.
so I'm like, what? And so then I practiced and I did it to my son, who was whatever, not going through the best patch. So I got there in spirit and I sat in the chair and for 5 minutes I hugged him and I felt it. Like I felt the energy was building up inside me until I was nearly exploding, but which meant that it was transferring. And I just told him a lot of things and all that. And in fact, I did it again yesterday, and I actually saw a prophetic picture of his future. I can't believe it, but anyway. So not only was I hugging him to give him God's comfort, but while I was doing it, I suddenly saw this and this and this in the upcoming days for him, and so I told him all in spirit. He would not want to know it in person. So I told him very strongly, this is what's going to happen to you. And I was kissing him on the cheek and giving him a back rub because he loves those and everything. And you know what? That's the end of the story. But I have been doing it a wee bit. But anyway, that's what you wanted to know again. Thank you.
But last week you told us when the first time you did it and you hadn't heard from him. And
right. Yes, I hadn't heard from him. So I've only done it twice now, but last week when I did it, I hadn't heard from him and I'd heard of this idea from Justin. And so I did it and it was very effective. I could feel it in the spirit. It wasn't just like, and then like 2 hours later, I got a text from him. Hi, Mum, how are you? And it was really friendly and cheerful. And I'm obviously not going to think that everything's perfect now, but it was a start. It was a turnaround. And since then, he gave his dad a phone call for about 3 hours the other night. And I mean, it's really great. It's just so exciting.
It's amazing what a hug will do. Really. I love that. I love that. Love having those the testimonies
So I have had ongoing whatever the word is, not repercussions, it's ongoing effect.
Yeah, good. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And I think I mentioned last week, just seeing you repeating it, that I tried to hug someone and they wouldn't. Well, I couldn't hug them, and I took it onto myself that maybe I don't love them enough and all that. But somebody in this group here said, well, maybe they're not receiving it, so it made me feel a bit better.
You know, there is nothing wrong with experimenting with love and hugs. That's all I can say. You can't go wrong. You're not doing anything wrong, and I think it's a great experiment. So I want you to know I'm hugging you all, and I do during the week. You see your faces.
We really appreciate
that. You're easy to love. Easy to love. Thank you for coming tonight. Well, 7 more sleeps and we'll get together again. How about that? All right. Love you. And the Lord bless you and keep you. May make his face to shine on you, be gracious unto you, lift up his countenance upon you and grant you his perfect peace, his shalom. Nothing missing, nothing broken.
Amen.